Well done, Craig. Yeah, that's our the AI revolution intro call. Now I would like to hear it say the AI revolution. And maybe what you ought to do, just lay your voice over the top of it, another track. But the AI revolution call and say it should be spoken out loud. But it's coming along.
All right.
Better than no intro video. And better than a 40-second. You know, as much as I even liked the song, even sampled it for a rap song with Moses before, Greatest American Hero theme song. Takes up too long in the beginning of the show. I don't like a long intro, you know?
Yeah, I don't think anybody does, really.
You mean Believe It or Not? That one?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That would get the whole whatever canceled. You won't be able to monetize.
No, you can't. No.
That's all you hear from these people is like, oh, no, I can't do it.
Yeah. I say just sample away. Give it away. Give it away now. Oops, I just sampled the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It is the AI revolution call. That was we might have had a short intro video, but that was a long and winding, pointless banter of an intro to actually the talking part. I'm Cody Willard, Craig Delaune, Bryce Money Smith. We all work at 10,000 Days Capital Management, and John Dio is a lifelong career-long AI expert. Yeah, 30 years or more. He's really old, can I tell you? Yeah. So Bryce had an interesting thought today, John. If we might start a little bit markets oriented, which I know sometimes you enjoy and/or ask good questions and/or comments with.
But I hope we're going to hit the software industry. You know, that's what market. Yeah.
Exactly. Bryce mentioned this afternoon that the market on the one hand is like software is absolutely doomed, and on the other hand, it's like, but AI isn't actually creating anything or changing anything anywhere. Right? Is that the phrase, Bryce? Is that how you phrased it? What'd you say?
Well, yeah, it's the market seems to think that AI is so powerful that it can replace all SaaS, and simultaneously it's not generating a high enough to return to justify the investment that the AI companies are making, right? So Amazon spends $200 billion on CapEx. They're like, nope, that's stupid. Why would you ever do that? And on the other hand, they're like, AI is going to kill the entire multi-trillion-dollar software industry. But I thought it wasn't generating. If AI can kill the entire software industry, Amazon is quite reasonable in investing $200 billion in CapEx, I would think. They're the ones replacing the software industry. But
both of those things cannot be true at the same time.
Well, like I was talking about this is not, you ever talk about, is it a bubble and it's going to pop? It's like, well, this is the opposite of a popping bubble. This is like popping somebody else.
Right.
Yeah, this is popping the bubble of people saying that AI is in a bubble. I
do think that software as a sector has long been elevated in its valuation, and there's a lot of like egregious stock-based compensation out there where, GAAP earnings are like minus $5 per share and non-GAAP earnings are $15 per share. And you're like this is becoming a little bit absurd, right? You can't have those kind of discrepancies between GAAP and non-GAAP financials. But I think the SaaSpocalypse, as it's been called, has more to do with the long history of software being overvalued and playing games with numbers, and less to do with Claude Code.
Yeah, it's like it might be both, because it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Like Claude Code and the threat to software future made the market actually much more judicious about the numbers and how it gets reported, and valuations were not cheap in software pretty much, other than at the bottom of the great financial crisis, the bottom of the .com, the bottom of COVID. There are moments in time where it might have gotten moments in time where it might have been relatively cheap, at least historically cheap. And now it's, software's sort of like been brought down to earth, and it's fairly or somewhat undervalued from a traditional market's perspective, looking at like growth rates and PEs.
Cody, I was thinking like not everything can be overvalued, and we have a new area to be overvalued. So this one had to give that up. And now you've got like Salesforce goes from what, 30 PE to 15 or something. It's like, that's reasonable. 15 is reasonable. So it's
and that's where you might argue it's even undervalued, because the market, the S&P 500 trades at 23, 24 times earnings. So it's below market multiple.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not like 5 times earnings like GM it trades at or something like that. It still has a little bit of growth priced in. What is interesting also, and an addendum to this whole topic, is that I think we've even hit on this topic before, that the value chain of semiconductors and the complexity of designing and making, especially making semiconductors, is making, and the demand for more power and more semiconductors of all the sorts that go into running AI data centers is so through the roof that semiconductors they historically traded at lower valuations than software as a service stocks. And that is clearly flipped, and probably rightly so. I think we've predicted that in the last 3 years, even here on this AI call, certainly in our writing and in our investments, because it's so much harder to replicate what NVIDIA has built than to replicate what CRM has built. It'd be very difficult to actually replicate and then maintain what CRM has built too, but certainly is more possible for like a startup to build their own Salesforce software suite internally than it would be for a startup to be like, hey, let's make our own chips for our computers, for our cloud business customers, So anyway, it is. We've certainly seen a rotation, and not just, I don't mean stock rotation, but we've seen a rotation in actually where the value, the margins are. Another example then would be NVIDIA's margins historically 35, 45% gross margins. And they peaked, about 18 months ago, Bryce, at 85% gross margins. And now they're back down around 80% gross margins. Am I getting those numbers right?
I don't know that they got to 85, but they're about 75 right now.
Yeah, I think they got over 80, but I could be exaggerating. I want to do. But so, and then, Microsoft's margins have gone down from 99% when I studied that business the first time in the late 90s to probably 60, 65% these days. So anyway, software CRM's margins are still outsized, and ARM Holdings is still outsized. Synopsys still has outsized earnings. So it's not like a gross margin. So it's not like all gross margins and all software have gone away. But as Craig wrote in his morning note, it is very important to remember that all software is not a monolith. Thoughts, comments, arguments?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think it is being treated as a monolith, right? For the most part. There are some exceptions in Palantir and things, but even those have been hit pretty hard with this sell-off. I think just from a sector perspective, like you have like the software industry as a whole is one of the most technologically advanced of all industries, right? And that's a simplification, but it's pretty true. And AI is software. And I think the software guys are going to figure out how to use a new software tool to probably benefit their software business. And maybe they can't figure that out. Maybe all of them won't figure that out. But as a whole, I think the software industry will figure this out largely. I think the business models probably will be different, but like the markets, like this entire sector is screwed. And for the most part, maybe without exception, anytime the market decides an entire sector or industry or asset class is screwed, dead, never coming back from the grave, it's never works out that way. Crypto has returned from the grave multiple times. The financials in 2008, JP Morgan's like $1 trillion business now, almost. Like these things.
Yellow Bryce, the exceptions to your rule are Yellow Pages, the horse and buggy, like those industries.
Those are specific things, not sectors. An entire sector.
Fair enough. And you know, we did download Claude Bot. Is that what it's called right now? What's
now
the
it's
thing?
called OpenClaw.
What?
OpenClaw.
OpenClaw to my Mac last Tuesday. We had our most recent AI call was on last Monday. The next day, Bryce and Craig were here at my offices. We downloaded OpenClaw to my computer.
No, you have Claude Cowork.
Yeah, do not put OpenClaw on
Yeah,
your
you
computer.
have Claude Cowork.
You got all right. OpenClaw is the one that has like it could like completely like destroy every file in your system and things
and give away all of your accounts.
Yeah. This one is the one that I downloaded. What did I download, Bryce?
Claude Cowork.
Claude Cowork, which OpenClaw used to be called ClaudeBot, but I downloaded a ClaudeBot named Claude Coworker, and don't download OpenClaw because that thing that used to be called ClaudeBot could destroy your computer.
And now you know why they had a trademark problem.
Yes, I understand, but it is the most confusing thing for someone who's not like actually doing this. I'm already confused.
You're confused because it was a trademark.
Let me finish, John. This is taking way too long to simply get to the point of the story. That it was mind-blowing to see just how holistically it did take over my operating system and computer on my Mac. And we just told it, hey, go make a video game using Gemini. What was it? An RPG role-playing video game using Gemini. It went and did it. And then we were like, why did we tell it to use Gemini? You could actually just tell it to make the video game and have it run on my computer. So we did that. And we told it to make the game and then actually build the game so we could play it on my computer. I could probably open it up. I haven't looked at it since last Tuesday, but like that stuff you do on AI, but the way that we were interfacing with it, and I guess what I'm getting at is you could see how quickly we are getting to a point where you could certainly tell an AI agent on your computer, hey, I run a newsletter business. I think you should send out this letter to every new customer as soon as they sign up, send this one out 3 days later, ask them how they're doing 3 months into it, make sure they don't have any questions. And like HubSpot and some other like their customer resource management light even software programs. You can see that AI is going to get to a point where it's going to be able to do so much that those things are currently doing for us, but you can even make a CRM thing with it, but to maintain it and get to the complexity of like Salesforce.com, Salesforce itself, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 years, Google Gemini is so amazing on a holistic level, it truly could do all of it from the ground up on just some prompts. That's what the market's been worried about. Bryce counters that with, look, the software guys at CRM are not sitting around twiddling thumbs. They're going to go figure out how to actually integrate it and make it do it inside of their program and make sure that there's still so much value add from the Salesforce CRM itself and the magic sauce therein, and how it integrates with everything in your company or whatever. There's still ways to do that, to grow, to modify, to become even bigger and more powerful for some of the big CRM. Let's call it SaaS companies. We do not have a position in CRM anymore, by the way. We did sell it 3 weeks ago. traded it out for Snowflake specifically because we think Snowflake will help Salesforce win. And even if Salesforce doesn't win, Snowflake will help whoever does win. So,
and Snowflake did not take a hit the way these other things did because it was treated as more like support. Okay, I don't know if it went down a little. It wasn't like the others. It was reported that it's being treated like Databricks, where it helps AI happen.
Yeah, but John, it got crushed. Yeah, that's why we got to sneak in and buy it. We'd rather buy CRM, Snowflake when it got crushed than hold on to CRM while it was getting
It got crushed as part of the software thing or before it?
I literally bought them the day, like last Thursday with all of software.
But I mean, it's not trading at 13 times earnings like
no, but it was, down at that moment, it was down 30% year to date.
In any case, it's recommended to be in it because it's supportive of AI as opposed to dependent on it.
That's where we are. Yeah, that's what our thought process was.
All right.
It's not threatened by it. It's actually an enabler and a beneficiary.
I mean, the other part is, John, like let's say Claude Bot or Claude Code, Cowork, whatever you want to call it, was AGI-ish, okay, intelligent. If you have it on your smartphone or PC or Mac, and you have no apps and no software on this thing, what good does that Cowork do for you? Is it going to rebuild a browser? Okay, I see I'm on a Windows operating system with no apps. First thing, I should probably build a browser. Then I'm going to build an email client, and then I'm going to like there's no reason for that Claude Cowork to do all of those things. Oh, I have customers. I should probably build a CRM. It's like probably what it's going to do is go sign up for Gmail, sign up for Salesforce, sign up for HubSpot.
But
like, that would be the reasonable thing for the Cowork thing to do, in my opinion.
But you won't. All those things become supporting actors as opposed to the main star. And
but they are supporting. Chrome is a supporting actor for me as an employee.
Well,
the difference is Cowork becomes the employee, not me.
Software-wise, all these apps that you name that you used to visit and spend time in that judge themselves by monthly active users and how much time you spend in them and so forth become not used by you, but used by your agent. And so you originally, yes, you go get a license for your agent for it, perhaps in the short term. But then it starts to be, well, I don't really use its UI or these things about it. I let my agent do that for me. So people aren't going to be as excited about, the AI that happens in Google Docs or whatever different thing. It's like my AI is the central point, and I happen to have these other things around it.
Yeah, and instead of number of human subscribers to these things, it'll be how many agents are paid subscribers, how many API customers are paying for access to CRM's data, etc.
Yeah,
I think that kind of brings us back to that framework that we've discussed and worked on, and how some are more resilient than others and positioned for agentic commerce versus the ones that are just UI wrappers for humans, So again, they're not all the same, but I do think there's some nuance to be had.
I think the most obvious example, there's several probably, like Duolingo is clearly threatened by ever smarter AI interfaces. You could literally, like Duolingo's differentiator in some ways is like, hey, you can play games to learn. Well, you could literally just tell Claude Cowork, go make me a game that teaches my daughter to practice on her whatever language she's wanting to learn. Another one is obviously Adobe, and just, the being able to prompt pictures and then prompt improved pictures and prompt fixing your actual pictures, like all of the things we used to pay for the Adobe subscription is been completely disrupted. Now, that being said, we're flip it guys. We should always invert. We should always come up with the other side. We should empathize with the people who are buying Adobe stock right now We should empathize with the person who's actually signing up for it. Surely there are still people going and signing up, new customers at Adobe right now. What are they doing? What value proposition are they seeing? Can you, any of the three of you guys, explain why I should sign up for Adobe or buy Adobe stock?
Well, I mean, it is, you still do need something to open and edit, like PDFs and things like that. There are alternatives. There have been alternatives for a long time. Gemini doesn't do that somehow. I even told Gemini before, build me a PDF editing app, and it doesn't work.
And here's something. I don't know about Adobe, but I know. So I've been playing around with Lingo Deer, which is like Duolingo, but it has a lot of East Asian languages. It kind of specializes in that. And I asked Gemini to build me a language app just to see how well I could make it. And I got like a few prompts in, and I was like, dude, like this needs to get so much better for me to actually build my own app when I could just pay $15 a month. And if this is something I really want to use, I'll just pay it just to make my life easier. I feel like I'm doing something, but I don't have all the time in the world to build apps. I know there's a lot of people that feel that way, but once the AI gets powerful enough to just build you something amazing like that with like an interactive interface, I mean, I truly think, then it'll be disrupted really. But for now, I can see why some people would still just rather just pay it.
Craig, can't you're a video game guy? Can't you picture a first-person shooter game where what you're shooting has to be the actual words that are Spanish words that you're learning, and you have to be quick enough not to shoot the words that aren't Spanish words but are Latin or something, Italian, and you're practicing reading as you're playing the first-person shooter game. Like, that is not that far away for you to prompt Gemini. What's the Gemini one that I pay $250 a month for that's premium, Ultra, whatever?
Ultra, yeah.
Ultra.
Yeah, you get on Gemini Ultra and you get to play with Gemini Genie, and you make video games, and you could totally, within, even right now, you could get to a point where you could make the video game I just described. It would take you work. But what your point is, in another year, in another 2 years, it won't even take you any work. The AI will be so good at doing it that you'll just be like, hey, make me a first-player shooter game where I have to shoot Spanish words and not other languages.
Yeah, that's my point, is that the technology is going to get there. Right now, in the short term, I can still see it having a decent value proposition for most people. But in the future, I mean, the sky's the limit for what you can imagine.
Can we just also say, while we're on the topic of stocks and these trends and things, it was a surprise to no one, certainly not at our firm, that Duolingo was threatened by ChatGPT and the ilk. But what is so stupid about this job, about Wall Street, about markets, about stocks, is that stock it spent the first 2.5 years after ChatGPT moment going up a double, a triple, a quadruple even, and went as like most wildly overvalued place it could have gone in the face of obvious disruption, obvious revolutionary trends undercutting its entire business model. And it didn't matter because for whatever reason, the momentum was there. Short sellers kept shorting it and getting squeezed out and having to cover. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. The numbers themselves were not collapsing. People obviously didn't immediately go cancel their Duolingo. Classrooms didn't cancel their Duolingo. But you go look at that stock now, and it's down 75% in 365 days. So if you think it was easy, just go short Duolingo because ChatGPT came out. No, we actually learned, as we always do, like it's not easy. We lost money trying to short it, and I think we missed the entire move down.
Yeah, it was at 540 at the top.
John, you have a real job. Doug says, I don't think anyone is buying Adobe Marketing. They're focusing on it. They're always trying to upsell, cross-sell, take over your computer. You log in, it's more to do. Are you sure you don't want to pay us some extra money for this other bullshit feature? Oh, it's the worst. Schools have firewalls. Yes, they have firewalls, but lots of schools are using Duolingo to teach secondary languages. I think that might be what you're referencing, Emma B. If I'm missing your point, please elaborate and we will address it.
I just think the markets are always discounting the future and probabilities and things, right? That's really what stock prices represent. That's why they get so wildly off at times, from overhyped to undervalued, you know. And there is a lot of uncertainty. The why we have these debates, the reason we can have these debates is because we don't know for sure what the future of the software industry looks like, right? 5 years ago, it was pretty easy to kind of extrapolate out what software looked like for the next 20 years. And now we have to reconcile the fact that AI exists and it can program things and it can make shitty language translation apps that aren't quite as good as Duolingo, but maybe they might be someday, right? And I think that's the game as a trader and an investor, is like, what is certain now that might become uncertain, and what is uncertain now that might become certain, you know? It's sort of a game of predicting that. In the long run, whatever happens in reality kind of is the ultimate test, you know. And if Duolingo were to grow 20% per year for the next 25 years, stock's going to be incredible value right here, you know. But
and MB says, yes, I think we were hitting on the point. It's like, yeah, the schools have firewalls, and I guess also maybe what she's might be getting at is, you know, it'd be difficult for students to just access a Gemini game that you randomly built through a firewall, et cetera. Absolutely all true. But I guess what I'm picturing is, you know, 5, 7, 9 years into the future, this stuff gets smoothed over and there will be just so many different options for even, not necessarily even learning languages at school, but just, you know, Duolingo has millions and millions of just random people like my daughter who's homeschooled that are students trying to use, or not just students, but people trying to learn a secondary language. And, you know, I personally would enjoy building a game like for learning a language that I am learning. So I find the building of these games and apps like writing a song in some ways. It taps into some artistic gene somewhere inside of me that I'm like, oh, that's fun. Let's work on that. Let's make it better. If I had more time and more compute, I would probably do it a lot more aggressively. But right now, that's, by the way, another thing we just got to say again. If you use any of these AI apps, you still see they can be sluggish, doing very simple stuff. And every time it's sluggish, you know that we need a 10x, 100x more compute power.
That's so true. Today I was using the Gemini auto browse feature, and I was like, all right, let's put it to the test. So I was having to update our employee handbook, and I had to do it with code. And I had AI. I said, can you go ahead and insert this code for me? It was I don't know how to pronounce it, John. It was like LA, like latex or something, TEX. LaTeX, yeah. So I was using that for the PDF, and it goes in there, and I had like, it tried to do it. It erased everything, and I had like 38 errors. All kind of, I said, all right, stop. And I went back, and I just asked it. I said, where do you want me to put this? And it told me exactly where to put it and what to do. So the knowledge is there, but it actually going into the browser and doing it was, you know, it was a little rough.
LaTeX really for making, you know, documents that have like mathematical equations and stuff like that, you know.
Well, that's what it told me to use. So I used it, and it came out great, but it was just funny trying to get Gemini to go in there and actually use the auto browse feature that's like an agent to go in there and input it itself. It had a hard time.
is about 30 years old. And it's interesting that these AIs, they don't care. It's like whatever does the job. If the stuff is there, not everything had to become modernized. It just has to use the stuff.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of AI, making everything easier. Again, I think a couple of points we should make here is that when people are worried about everyone needing to learn a new skill set, the only skill set that's really required is prompting well, speaking accurately. Like if you're a good communicator, you're going to be like AI enables you to be a good accountant, attorney, a law, like whatever it is, whatever your profession is. If you communicate well, AI is going to make you better. That's the whole point. You shouldn't have to train yourself how to use AI. The promise of AI is that you don't have to be trained to use it. It's just so easy. It's got the intelligent and the interface for you. And then the other thing I think that was interesting, apparently I didn't really pay attention to the Super Bowl ads. Frankly, I hardly paid attention to the Super Bowl after about the second quarter because, boy, that got pretty boring. But there was a lot of AI ads, right? A lot of AI application ads. And I think one of the things that we're just hitting on with like Snowflake and why we're not in CRM, and there are probably, hundreds of thousands of AI application companies, startups out there right now, many of them raising millions, some raising hundreds of millions, and a handful raising billions. And there will be some billion-dollar AI application companies. There are going to be $100 billion AI application companies, just like there's a Netflix out there. There are Airbnb, other Carvana. There are $100 billion smartphone applications. But the value stack truly created the trillion-dollar businesses on the platforms that these applications run on. And that, for those smartphones, was Android, owned by Google, and iPhone, iOS, owned by Apple. And that was like almost, it had more to do with having a number of developers and customers that could all bring together, had critical mass of both customers and developers, so it made those incredible applications. In AI, there might be hundreds of thousands of application companies out there right now, but there are only maybe 5 or 8 companies on the planet that have hundreds of billions of dollars to spend creating the AI infrastructure that all the applications run on. And that is another reason why we've stuck with the hyperscalers, the Googles, the Amazons, the Metas, because those are the only guys that can actually build this AI. It doesn't matter how the governments, France, isn't there this whole meme thing going on right now that France is like, take this, America, we're going to spend $2.6 billion on AI this year. And they make the chart look bigger than the $800 billion that's being spent in the US on AI. It's very fun. I've seen it twice on my Twitter. I guess maybe I was bored this weekend and spent too much looking at it, but it's out there. Like literally, even like no other country can spend, not even the United States government could spend $800 billion on CapEx making AI data centers in 1 year. Bryce, what'd you say today? Like, I think we might completely, the economy might completely blow people's minds for the next year, because if getting us to this point, like, you remember we've talked before about how the ChatGPT moment brought on this CapEx cycle, and that CapEx cycle actually kept the broader economy from going into what looked like it was a for sure recession, as the COVID bubble had turned into a COVID crash in the markets, and the economy had all contracted and it looked doomed. And then this spending cycle went nuts, and along with it, there was animal spirits brought into the market, so people would chase stocks, and that becomes a self-fulfilling reflexive thing. Hey, more money flowing into the thing. Hey, more money to spend on the thing, and it all builds up. That was amazing. Like, but it's not slowing. Like, we're going, like, Amazon doubling the spend this year off of the last year's doubling. And if that last year's doubling of getting it to $100 billion of spend was that impactful. Well, now it's $200 billion from one company that's going to impact the market, the economy, the cycle. This is incredible stuff. We need to just step back and sort of appreciate the magnitude of it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody appreciates the magnitude of it. Like, I don't know if even like Amazon people can get their heads wrapped around what $200 billion in spending in a year looks like.
Like we can't. We're trying to get our heads wrapped around it, and we know, like, we strive to actually understand exponential growth, right, Bryce? Who's the guy who said that nobody understands the human failing is we can't understand exponential growth? Like, we can't. No matter how hard we try, even we are not going to fully understand and grasp the magnitude of this incredible $800 billion 1 year spend that's going to grow again next year and the next year too. Yeah. Clearly, the return on investment is so good for these companies, they can't stop it. They have to do it. What, Bryce?
Well, I was going to say something different. You said they can't stop?
They can't stop. The return on the investment is too attractive.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They're like, hey, would you like to spend $200 billion and make it back in 3 years? Yes, I would like that opportunity.
Right. Like, I thought you were going to say that they had to because of like this prisoner's dilemma thing, and that's been out there forever. Yeah, and I don't agree with that. I never was like, you're telling me because Meta made this decision, now Amazon also makes this, and then now they're like betting hundreds of billions of dollars because Meta bet hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, it's a silly game. Come on,
it's a return on investment. It's a clear return on investment. Like, they're like, hey, holy crap, we actually had 30% return on what we spent this year. Do you think we should ramp it up next year and do that same thing and get bigger billions dollars return? Right. Yes, we should. You'd be a terrible business opportunist if you weren't doing this.
But the market's not used to it, right? I mean, you hear that people are that part of the tanking comes from people going, "Oh my God, look what they're doing." It's not a question whether they're doing the right thing. They're not used to it, so they're acting like they're not doing the right thing.
Which is, again, with Bryce's point earlier, like, that's what provides the opportunity. The market is not agreeing with us, and if we turn out to be right, we own a lot, big positions for many years, frankly, in Google, Meta, Tesla, and others, but there's bigger than they've ever been. And
but why did the market get excited when Meta reported 125 billion in CapEx? Is it just how they framed it because it was such a direct correlation to their ROI?
No, I think the pundits misinterpreted the market's excitement on Meta's quarter. I don't think the market just was like, holy crap, look how much return on investment. Look at the acceleration of this business. Look at the acceleration of the margins. Look at how incredible this whole fundamental business is. And then the market was like, oh crap, they're spending oh my God, but it's so good. They're spending too much, but it's so good. And then Amazon, was sort of a different thing. It was like, yeah, the numbers were all right. It wasn't accelerating, except, Azure cloud was accelerating, but they're going to spend $200 billion. And, it just, Craig, moment in time, it trying to explain, I've said this a million times on my writings, that trying to explain any one day action in any single stock is an impossible task. You can always come up with reasons why it did the stuff, but nobody really knows. Look, Amazon is cheap, but it's not as cheap as Meta is. Amazon is also very cheap, though. And as you know, we bought more Meta last week. We bought more Amazon after its earnings report last week. We bought more ARM after hours when it was down after its report. We thought it was a great report, and turned out now it's up 25% since that report. None of it makes sense. None of it. Short term never makes sense. Long term earnings make stocks go up.
It's hard to believe Meta was at 580 a few months ago.
It was at 6:00. We literally bought some in the hedge fund at like 6:03 last Wednesday night.
Yeah.
right, Bryce? Or was it Thursday night? Whatever night it was, we bought some after hours at like 6:03. Am I crazy?
I don't remember.
I think we did.
It's possible.
Word is they're bouncing back with their AI model. Is going to be a really good next round on that for them.
Avocado, right?
Yeah.
What do you know about that model?
Just that it's doing really well even on its pre-training. So that's before it's gone through any stages of refinement. It's just like straight out of the gate, which is it's a good sign for, and it's multimodal, I believe. Yeah.
I just had an incredible deep thought on this. So Meta and its infrastructure, AI data centers, that's the garden. Avocado is the vegetable that they're growing. They personally use some of it to make pico de gallo, guacamole. And they're like, yeah, look, we actually throw some other mixed stuff in here and make an application with this avocado. That's delicious. And then even other people are like, hey, you know what we can do? We can make some amazing shrimp tacos and put some of that guacamole from the avocado from the garden in the shrimp tacos. And there's $1 billion business somewhere along the way making not literal, but digital.
Excuse me, just a sec. B Money, do you have any idea what he's talking about?
Yeah, I follow him. Yeah.
Sorry, John, my boys. Although that might have been like the Sopranos. Tony goes home and tells his wife, hey, you got to hear this joke I told at the office today. Everybody thought it was so funny. Everybody cracks up. And everybody's cracking up. And she's like, okay, tell it to me. He tells, and she's like, that wasn't funny at all. He's like, well, everybody was laughing. And she's like, you pay them to laugh at your jokes.
Isn't that interesting?
See?
Yeah.
I don't laugh at your jokes most of the time.
Actually, that is true. Bryce is uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable about the lack of laughing he does at my jokes.
But Meta does, if this is part of the analogy, but Meta does have a garden, has a market for its AI. Even before it tries to go sell anything anywhere, it has its whole installed base of, a couple billion. So,
they can distribute their AI and get a billion people. It's like 2.2 billion people per month across Insta, Facebook, WhatsApp. Right. That can interface and learn, use to help train all of Meta's AI. And then they also are using it, a lot of that compute power, to just make those algorithms ever better. And my gosh, they are good. I don't really do this, but my wife will sit there and so this weekend she's scrolling her Instagram and I'm like, let's watch some of this. She's like, all right, let's go to the dog puppy stuff because she knows I like the golden retriever puppy stuff. And so we're scrolling through. It's hilarious. And then there's this ad for a basketball that tracks, like you're dribbling and you're shooting, and it's an AI basketball thing. And we just hesitated because I was like, oh, that looks sort of cool. Anyway, let's keep going, puppers. And then a few minutes later, they hit me with that same ad, but slightly different variation. And you can tell even the ads are AI generated, but they're good. Like, it makes me want to buy the basketball thing. And you just know the algorithms themselves are feeding you more relevant ads, and they're figuring out how to make you want to buy it ever more. You can see it in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Gemini last night about just planning some upcoming vacations. And I turned on the Gemini or the Google personal intelligence. And I was talking about, going to Seattle, and it was like, hey, I know you've been really into like Filipino cuisine recently. It said, and it just some random, because I was just talking to it about that the other day. And it said, while you're in Seattle, you should try these spots for Filipino food. And I was like, dude, that's so cool. And I asked it, I was like, did you use personal intelligence to feed that to me? And it was like, you caught me. Yes. I went through your stuff and I know you like that. And so just between the amount that Google and Meta know about me, I can only imagine how much more money I'm going to end up spending at some of these businesses because how good these guys.
It's funny, Craig. I remember having the epiphany like in 2006 or something. And learning about Facebook and just social media business models and thinking it through. And I was like, you realize, I wrote about it. I was like, you guys realize, like, if you're pregnant and you post about it, then the meta algorithms will know that you're pregnant and it'll actually tailor its ads to you. Are you? And it really is, like, it's both horrifying on a privacy level, but it's also just absolutely helpful on a shopping level.
Absolutely.
Doug says your devices are eavesdropping on you. I don't think the devices are, but
The apps,
there might be
the
some
apps.
stuff. I guess the device itself has to be if someone is. John, you believe that?
Yes.
I
do.
believe iPhone is.
It happens all. It happens where, I mean, Marcy and I turned to each other. We're like, how could it have done that? How could it have just put that in our like YouTube feed? You
don't think it's conspiracy. You actually think like the devices are listening to you, sharing the information with Meta, and then Meta's delivering you an ad based on something that your device sitting across the room heard you talking to your wife about.
No, that's silly. Google. But yeah, but yes, and I think it's actually been proven. So we gotta go. I gotta look it up or something for you. But it's there. The devices are.
Bryce, are you buying this? Do you think your device?
I've seen it happen, and the ads are remarkably good. But I don't. Let's just think about it in compute terms. Because this conspiracy is old. This is way before AI came around, right? So you're telling me billion smartphones doing real-time voice analytics in 24 hours a day, always listening, right?
Yeah.
Processing all that data, feeding it into machine learning algorithms, and then spitting out ads on the platform. No.
First of all, how hard is it to listen to voice? My phone does it every time I go to talk in a chat. So it's certainly got the capability built.
I don't know. My phone doesn't understand. I ask Siri for the sports or the weather, and it never gets that right. I mean, it can't even tell me what the sports, and somehow I'm supposed to leave it. It's finding WD-40 ads for me. Here we go.
And I saw a great documentary on this Chinese kind of, what do you call it, cyber hack software stuff that got into about like 200 different utilities, whether it's this wallpaper or whatever. And they would go and put the stuff out and let it go for a couple of years without anything in it. And then in an update stage, when it's updating the software, they'd sneak something in there. And all of a sudden it's keylogging, and
all
it's
right, now, like okay,
millions and millions.
Do I believe there are nefarious actors in foreign governments who spend lots of time and money trying to listen to our conversations and probably sometimes successfully figure out how to do it on random cases? Yes, 100%. Do I believe that the United States agencies that would want to listen in on our, yes, they can if they want to, but are they recording what I'm saying right now, even on this stream, much less on my phone over there? There's not enough compute. There's not enough memory. We already have a shortage of memory. Now you're telling me we need memory so that every conversation I'm having, even randomly to my daughter about golf, is going to get recorded so they can sell me better ads? No, John, it's not happening.
I forgot my tinfoil hat, so I have to.
I know my mom is screaming at the stream right now saying, yes, they do listen, because every time I talk to her, she has like another anecdote about this. But I feel like if they did listen, I should be getting all kinds of Tesla ads in my phone, and I don't get them. And we talk about Tesla vehicles like all the time.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's selective memory. And what happens is the algorithms aren't good. They're gonna, if you Google something, you ask Gemini something, you actually interface with the internet, you're on Meta, you search the topic, it's going to remember it, it's going in your algorithm, and occasionally it's going to feed it back to you. And if you, the one time that you happen to have been talking about, for example, WD-40, and remembered that you needed some WD-40 prior, and somehow the algorithm kicked it in at that moment, you're going to selectively be like, holy crap, it's listening because it knew. But the other 200 times that day that you were discussing things not WD-40 and you did not get an ad for them, it was just good algorithm, and it happened to be coincidental with the time you were talking about.
Yeah, it is true.
Here's the bigger picture, in my opinion. The reason the algorithms are good is because it's not because they show you things you need. It's because they convince you to buy things that you don't need. They're like, here's this thing you've never heard of, like a basketball AI tracking app. And we think you would love it, right? And you're like, yes, I would love that. I never have heard about basketball AI tracking, never had this conversation with my wife. Yes, I would love it. I will have two, right?
Yes,
Like it's not like, hey, here's some Clorox bleach. Like that's what the old television ads were, right?
Right. No, exactly. Another one that they were showing me this weekend on my wife's feed was like a smart mouse, and it like you can change the settings, and you can actually has a screen on the mouse,
right.
So for interfacing. And I thought, I was like, I actually watched the ad. So then about every 5 minutes, it was feeding me another version of that ad, and it was really selling me hard. I was this close to clicking through and buying it. I did not.
That's a good point, though, Bryce, because I feel like the stuff that I get is usually stuff I definitely don't need. But I've bought quite a few things from.
Well, yeah, that's the long tail of advertising is what Facebook does. They're not doing like General Motors and Geico Insurance. Like you're not just seeing tons of fucking ads about, excuse my language, tons of ads about like the same stuff you see when you're watching Fox Business or whatever, like that's a poor usage of ad dollars is for Coca-Cola to be running expensive ads on Meta when it could be like much more targeted to the people that actually like the people that are going to buy Coke. But they're trying to, it's the people selling some niche product on Shopify that want to use Meta to get you to their Shopify.
Well, you don't, number one, you don't have a budget. Most of those ads that you're seeing don't have a budget for mass marketing, print, national print magazine / commercials on TV / Roku. But you can certainly, I've made ads in years past for random things businesses I've been involved with. And you just, even before AI, you can make a great ad on the platform itself and then tailor it. Back in the day, you could even tailor it based on race, age, religion, etc. Over time, they've tweaked that, but that's like everything. There's like dog whistling you can figure out and find your targeted audience, triangulation anyway.
You talk about AI to make ads, but what about ads in AI? And which is what Anthropic's commercials were about in the Superbowl, which were kind of funny. You saw those?
I saw them when they got posted on Twitter, and everyone was So Sam Altman was all fired up.
Yeah, he got all pissed about it, but it was
very mean. They're not going to do it like that.
Yeah, right. But you could say, well, Anthropic, you got anything else to talk about? Maybe something about your product, but it was a good. It was funny. So
it is, and it really actually was about their product. We will not do this. Our competitors are, and we just want to remind you, we won't. It was about their product, but yeah, I don't know. It's ads in AI. I know Google's going to be doing it. I mean, of course, it's just what. So what?
Got to get your money somewhere. So Anthropic's not, because they don't need to, because they know their money's going to come from a different place. So they're doing pretty well, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, I'm using the $8 a month Go option for ChatGPT, so I should be getting some of those ads whenever they roll out, or I don't even know if they're alive yet. But if I get some goofy ones like the commercial show, I'll definitely share them with y'all.
Yeah, I am agreeing. If
Yeah,
you
that's very
interact-
different than what we were talking about.
What's that?
This is very different than what we were talking
That's not spying. That's
Yeah,
like
like if
literally.
you absolutely anytime you interface with Alexa, Gemini, Siri, anytime you interface with the internet,
Yeah.
they're going to track you. They're going
Yeah.
to know what your
Yeah.
interfacing interest was.
Yeah.
Your interest in interfacing was. So 100% I agree with all of that. I'm just simply saying when your phone is sitting on the kitchen counter and you're talking to your wife about WD-40, it did not listen to that. I'm not going to die on that.
If you tell Alexa,
my conviction level's high.
like if you're using Alexa to buy a bicycle or trying to fix your bike, and then later it's like Amazon's like, hey, here's WD-40. Of course, that's what the freaking thing is designed to do.
Doug, I agree with you. I think we must be missing some sort of premise on this discussion because, yes, Alexa, Siri, your phones are listening on device for the prompt.
Right.
So they are always listening to you. And if they think you said Alexa, it turns on and sends you into the internet where you are immediately tracked. But I do not think the Alexa device sits there processing, thinking, sending what you're discussing. I mean, it's literally against the terms of services. And we're talking collectively between Apple, Google, Meta, and Amazon, $10 trillion of market cap that is at risk if it were ever actually proven that Android is not following its terms of services other than when United States government agencies ask them not to.
John, you're muted.
John, are you doing that to be funny?
No, but usually I can't talk when I'm not muted either. So just kidding. It did happen though that Google got a large lawsuit against them for having their incognito mode not be incognito. It's supposed to be all hidden data, and Google was collecting the data, right? That happened to the tune of billions.
No, I don't think billions. We would have heard of it.
You did hear of it.
Yeah, I've heard some about that. Like they showed that like they were maybe still getting some cookies on you or something. I can't remember what the. And you're
well, there you go, Doug. Yeah. Your premise is back in play.
Right. Definitely, like Google. Google. I don't know how much they're monetizing the data, but they had more data than they were supposed to have on incognito users. I think
5 to 8 billion estimated.
Yeah, but it hasn't been awarded or something, right? It's sued.
They agreed to a settlement.
Yeah, they were sued for $5 billion. The settlement.
And they agreed to a settlement, and they didn't say what the amount.
I'll go with $50 million.
Estimated between 5 and 8 billion. I'm reading Google's own page about Google's, So,
I'm not buying any of it.
Back to if we're talking about ads and AI, I found it interesting that on Facebook and Instagram, I get a lot of ads for Claude. Like I get ads for Claude, like to use Claude, Opus, and all that stuff. I see it all the time, which I find interesting. I never see any OpenAI ads or, Gemini ads really, but I feel like Anthropic does kind of go out of its way to get more consumer users.
Well, I get those ads too, Craig, but we are power users of AI and we are enterprise users of AI, and Claude knows both of those things, and they're going to hit us with Claude ads.
Craig,
I don't think my dad and mom are getting Claude code ads.
Yeah,
on Facebook.
Yeah,
they're advertising to you specifically because you are obviously an AI man over here and immersed.
I guess it knows I use. Yeah.
No,
it's like I saw someone on Twitter again this weekend. Amaris had an eye infection, so I spent like 2 days laying around the house with Amaris hanging out, and we actually have fun Super Bowl steaks and frites, but. Nonetheless, I spend a lot of time apparently on Twitter this weekend because it's now about the 4th or 5th time I'm referencing it. I saw someone complaining on Twitter that they were getting too much porn in their feed. And I was like, I don't think you should post that because I'm not getting porn in my feed. I bet if I were clicking or searching for porn, I would be getting porn in my feed. And if you're going to complain to everybody, and it was like complaining. It was like, can't believe X has all this porn on here. It's always in my feed. And you're like, oh God, dude, that's you. That's your.
Well, my point isn't that, I mean, I understand why it targets me, but I'm saying I don't see ads from like OpenAI or anything like that. Like, it's just interesting that Anthropic's paying for those ads. Like,
I see ads not targeting me on OpenAI. I see ads on TV.
yeah, so I don't.
Going back to the Coca-Cola discussion, like ChatGPT's Coca-Cola and maybe Anthropic is more long tail.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting the different modes they're taking for.
It would make sense though, right? That maybe
It makes sense to me.
yeah, maybe Anthropic knows that they're not going to compete against OpenAI in the general consumer,
Right.
but they definitely want to capture a power AI user like Craig. Did you know you can't spell Craig without AI?
I do know that. Yeah, there you go. Check that out.
I just still think it's surprising that everyone says that models are commoditized. They're commoditized. Everything's commoditized. And like Anthropic and OpenAI, XAI, and Google are all taking very different paths, but they're all commoditized somehow.
Well, and again, let's assume that there are only that there are 7 commoditized LLM AI things over the next 5 to 10 years. I'll own each of them. Like, that is still an oligopoly. That is not exactly like a commoditized, heavy commodity. Everyone can catch up. No, there's only 5 companies that can ever create it. And so just own them, even if it is a little bit commodity oriented.
Yeah, I think the idea of commoditization is like a little overblown. I'm bearish on commoditization as a trend.
You're a commodity.
Somehow, like the internet, you would think would be like the ultimate commodifying tool and it's dominated by like a monopoly.
Yeah.
The biggest monopoly in the world that we've ever seen dominates the most like open source, networked, freelancing thing that's ever existed is owned by a monopoly.
Which monopoly?
Google. Google is the internet. Google, the whole open internet, search, everything.
Whole dream died.
The whole thing.
Yeah. We democratized nothing.
Yeah. Trade Desk wants to run ads, you go through Google. You want to, like, there's Google, and then, like, if you're on an app, you use Meta products. The App Store is an amazing democratization tool. Meta has 90% of the revenue that goes through the App Store probably goes to Meta advertising or something. Like, this, it's very egalitarian and very monopolistic at the same time. How is that possible?
We live in a world of irony.
Yeah.
The most ironic outcome is usually the most likely. Is that the Elon Muskism?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last words. We've been on here for an hour.
I'll go. So we weren't talking about it, but I mean, we said it last time a little, but we talked about the the SpaceX merger, but the notion that it's power in space is the real reason, is what he said, in an interview. And he said, you can't do it on Earth. There's just no way to get the hundreds of gigawatts to come online. It's like, he's like, what are you talking about? We're gonna have 1,000 new power stations? Where's this gonna come from? So I didn't hear him in that whole description. I want to kind of understand the, not that I know what it means, but I would study it a little. The distance from Earth, like which orbit it's in, because I assume it's got to be like farther than Starlink and be out there somewhere where it's more geostationary as opposed to geosynchronous and just always sun facing. And like how do they stick this giant thing out there? But
yeah, John, it is worth studying. I've looked at it somewhat, and it's always mind blowing how even orbit, the concept of orbit works. It is gravity that's constantly pulling you towards the planet, but it's never fast enough to actually make you fall to the planet, like all of that. And so they end up figuring out even just orbital planes that get the 24/7 sunlight, even in low Earth orbit. And so I don't know. You should study it and then talk to us about it, because it'll be interesting.
yeah, so that was pretty cool to understand that was the reasoning, sort of. It's not like,
Well, that's got to be
it's
right. I mean,
cool.
this is where we
Yeah.
talk about how China's got this huge lead on building solar on Earth. And I told you guys last week, I did some research. It'd take 24 years of them doing as much as they did last year in this record year to catch the United States energy generation on a per capita basis. It's like 8 years to even just catch total production. But if in the end, the most economically and energy efficient solution of AI is what's going to be the biggest and best and most dominant, then you've got to figure out how to do that. And the US/SpaceX can do that, and no one else can. China cannot create a low Earth orbit of general.
Anyway, that one's mine. So go ahead.
I just want to comment on that because I did listen to Elon talk about that, and I've been skeptical of this XAI SpaceX merger and everything. And Elon might be wrong in his timing, but he actually might be like, the timing could happen even faster, because my main concern with AI right now is that we can't build it as fast as the hyperscalers say they can build it.
Yeah.
We're hitting the limits of construction, labor, concrete, steel, getting things, transformers, all that stuff to the right place. Like, my family's in the construction.
You've already hit the limit, right? I mean,
yeah, it's like we already can't build what we said we were going to build last year, and now it's doubled. The budget has doubled for this year. And what Elon kept saying on that podcast, they were like, yeah, but it's this, that, and this and that. Like, you can just do this and that. And he's like, try and do it. Go try to build a gigawatt data center. Just try to build a 1 gigawatt data center. You choose the place, try to go do that, and come back to me when you finish. He's like, it was like a Herculean effort to pull it off in Tennessee. And they were like firing up temporary generators. The Tennessee, like the local Memphis people protested. And so the government shut it down. So they had to build a power plant in Mississippi and then build power lines from Mississippi to Tennessee. He's like, that was for 1 gigawatt. And all of everyone's like, we're going to do 5 gigawatts here, 10 gigawatts there. And where I think Elon might be right is just like, even if space is like not that cost efficient at the beginning, he can actually do it. There's nothing stopping him from putting up those, like, if he can figure out the physics and engineering, like all of this, like the constraints on Earth, most of the constraints don't apply. He just needs solar panels, and he needs the chips and the spaceships to send them up there.
Yeah, he needs de minimis costs to get to orbit, which is what
he can scale to gigawatts while Amazon and Facebook are sitting around waiting on permits from the California regulators. Like he could actually win on timing for once. And I was like, wow.
They said he'd have to do how many launches in a year? 10,000?
Yeah, and that was to hit, I don't remember how much. Was that a terawatt or something of compute?
Yeah, it was a huge number.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
still, it's a ton of launches. But
yeah, to do 1 gigawatt, it's not anything like, I mean, it's 1/1000th that.
Yeah.
So call it
even if
100.
it's a ton of launches, it's like, so there are a ton of airplanes that fly every day. So
right. That was his point, was like, yeah, that would actually be small by airplane standards. And he's like, I could probably do it with like 30 or 40 starships launching one every 3 hours or something like that, I don't know. Elon can speak so like far out and crazy sounding, and then whenever he explains it, it's like really rational. And he's like, I just solved for the hardest constraint, and right now, if I order a generator, it's like 5 years out. If I order a transformer, it's 3 years out. And I'm in a race to build AI before anyone else. Maybe I can do it faster in space.
Yeah,
that's pretty much his thinking.
And then even why he wants to build a terafab for semiconductors inside a Tesla. is sort of this, like, what's the biggest constraint for him building more and more technology? Chips. And Taiwan Semiconductor is not going to scale to the scale that Elon is going to, that Tesla is going to need if they're going to build millions of Optimus robots over the next 5 to 10 years. Craig, last word.
Well, I've been using Claude in Excel, and it has been mind-blowing, to say the least. Been pretty fun, the stuff it can build and help me out with. I need to get pretty granular with it, but I plan on doing some more modeling and utilizing it soon. So I'll report back with that. So maybe the ads are working, because I'm probably going. I used Copilot, give me a $9.99 month special, but I feel like my money will probably be spent better just going with Claude.
Why mess with the Microsoft product? Like, why even, like, Craig, why start going to cancel that? Seriously, I don't want you to mess with the Copilot. It's horrible. Let it go.
Well,
go do Claude.
It's kind of that thing where you have to know, your enemy. I was like, what are they
just
giving
go
us?
prove how right I am, how bad it is.
I will say, on one comment on that, but I had 2 people this weekend were like asking me about AI, and they're like, what do you think about Copilot? I have Copilot now. And if you're in business or if you're in government, like, Microsoft just pushes that shit out onto you. And like what we were saying earlier about how things have to be so easy, like the barrier for people like consumers and businesses to adopt technology is like really high. Like, if it's hard to use at all, people won't use it. If they have to go download a new app, it's got to be damn good reason for them to go download a new app. Like, if you're not in the tech space, you just don't do that. And like my dad, I've tried to get my dad and our construction company to use AI and use Gemini and build like some custom apps and stuff. They won't do it, but they're using Copilot because they can click a button in Outlook and it like makes emails for them. That's Microsoft's advantage. That's why they've been able to do this for 30 freaking years, because they are so entrenched.
Counterpoint, crypto exists. Billion people fuck with this crypto thing. I've made my own crypto. None of it makes any sense. I'm always constantly amazed where we're like, you'll have to cut the token code and then you got to go paste that in your wallet, but you have to approve inside this wallet this code. Like, and somehow, so I'm just saying, Bryce, somehow crypto exists, but your point, I think, really is there's not a billion people in crypto, right? It's maybe tens of millions have actually ever traded crypto out of the 7 billion people on this planet. And for 1 billion people to use your product, it does have to be as good as an iPhone or as good as Meta. Like, you got it to get to that scale. Yeah. It has to be easier to, but the whole promise of AI is that it does that. Right. Like, that is the point, that your father will just simply quit even clicking the button and he'll just be like, hey, do it. The thought, he's like, I'm about to build this thing, do that for me.
And good enough risk is a thing, right? Like, just something being good enough to where people don't use the other stuff, so.
Yeah, it's just going to get better. In technology, it always gets better. Here's my deep thought for the day. I put my hand on this while we were doing our last words. And I use this. I use this archaic 100-year-old calculator technology. When was the first calculator? 1960? Mm-hmm. John, you're on mute again, but call it 65, 70-year-old technology.
72, the Bomar brain.
1972, same year I was born. And somehow, despite all of the AI that I'm immersed in, all the PC, I got my monitor over there, I got all of this technology all the time surrounding me, and somehow it's more efficient occasionally for me to pull this thing out. And I've got to think about that. There's something there. There's importance on that thought. We've got to get why does this thing still, why am I still using this? I have a smartphone, I have a computer. It's the interface. It's as archaic as it is, it's still good. Yeah.
And those are harder to set up than anything on your desk.
It's a lot easier to download WhatsApp and make a phone call than it is to boot this phone that Craig spent hours upon hours trying to make work.
And what about this?
Yeah, I mean,
why do we need this?
Yeah.
Everybody thought the Kindle was going to kill books, and that didn't happen.
Hold on, I'm making a phone call.
Okay.
No, Audible kills books.
Yeah. Carazozo 692. Yeah. Oh, Mrs. Walden's not there right now. Tell
It's
her.
a party line.
No. All right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a party line. Yeah. Tell Miss Walden to call me when she gets back on the line. Thanks, guys.
Was that your last word, Cody?
That was my last word.
What is your
annoying
thought? Why? What would you say? Like, if you had to answer right now, like, why calculator, paper, handheld phone?
Part of it is, most of it, I think, is legacy. I think I grew up using this, and even through college, I did not use a computer for calculations till I got, like 1995 or something. I started my first Excel spreadsheet. So it's partly generational. It's partly that this is actually a great invention, and it was designed very well, and very ergonomically and very efficient. So for those reasons, it still exists, but we should, there's, just from a revolution investment perspective, it is something to think about how certain items live 70 years of useful life and others don't.
Staying power.
It reminds me of when I was in school. I was the only one using notebooks in my class. All the other younger kids, they were using tablets and laptops, and I just can't take notes that way.
Here's the first smartwatch that I was ever able to find. It's an Android. It's got the telephone operating system inside of it. I probably bought this 12 years ago. It was so poorly designed and such a poor interface that it sits in this drawer and never gets touched. But this is still used on a weekly basis.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Some things are tried and true, huh? There you go.
Another very good standard. Another good revolutionary idea right there. Tape and tape dispenser. Both brilliant. There's actually something about that in the analogies too, right? The dispensing of the tape was actually almost as important as the invention. The invention of the dispenser is almost as important as the actual tape. That way Spotify exists.
About that one.
Spotify, the music is the tape and Spotify is the dispenser.
Right.
I like that. It's pretty good.
John, see, they like my idea.
You got to send me your 50. You have to send me your songs too, by the way.
Oh, for publication purposes? Yeah, I've got to do that. I want you to do it when you're here on my computer so I can see you do it, and then I can do it in the future. That's why I didn't send it to you. So,
alrighty.
Plan on coming up here next week.
Okie doke.
All right, Johnny, Craig, B Money. B Money, were your last words about SpaceX and XAI, or did you want to get something else out?
No need for me to pontificate any further this.
No,
this
you've
call.
done excellent pontification there. So you're the pontiff.
I like it.
They're listening. They're listening.
All right, guys.
Okay.
See you later.
Thanks, John. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Oh, well, we got to do our video.
Are you doing it?
Yeah.
You just hit end stream.
set outro video. Probably the last one.
Oh, if you just hit end stream, it'll do it.